This is another reply to a cigar video. In the latest one, he went over a bunch of things. It was an introduction to his channel, but what caught my ear was the talk about narratives and how valid they may or may not be. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go to the Chinese restaurant with my family. They had on the menus, the Chinese zodiac, which is 12 years, a 12-year cycle, and each year has an animal assigned, and the traits of that animal are supposed to be the traits of the people born that year. And I think, if I remember right, there were 5 of us, and between us we had 5 different signs. And so it was fun to sit around the table and say, oh yeah, I can see, you read the description and you say, I can see that in you. Yes, you are very bold and daring. Yes, you are creative, yes, you are reticent, or whatever it is assigned to that animal. But you realize, especially when you're young, this is ridiculous, because when you go to school, everyone you know is going to be in the same year as you, or the one adjacent. So the idea that anything about you as an individual, or that there's something collective about everyone around you that has to do with this animal, is a lot harder to sell than finding that trait in yourself. I read once that you can study old writing and infer that people didn't think so much in narrative terms before fiction was popular. That fiction, it's reading literature that gave us the idea that every thought we have has a narrative behind it. And I think it's probably more than just fiction. It would have been tougher to do that in the old days. If you were someplace or you didn't travel much, and everyone around you had the same kind of job, lived in the same kind of house, had a similar background, it would have been a lot tougher to construct some narrative based on your past. In Houston, you're talking to someone every day who's from another country or another state, and it's very common to have someone identify themselves by that. You'll always hear, they have an accent, they lay it on a little thick. I don't know what accent that was, but they have an accent, they lay it on a little thick. And they'll tell you that because of where they're from, or worse, because of their great-great-grandfathers was a jailer, or their brother-in-law was a carpenter, that this gave them some unique perspective and just caused them to feel certain ways or have certain opinions. For instance, how often do you hear, oh, I'm from whatever country, of course I love spicy food. And people who do this over and over and over again, especially when it's someone from another country, the question is obvious. Man, when you go home, what do you talk about? Because I'm quite sure wherever you're from, everyone doesn't share all of your opinions. So if where you're from is the source of all of your opinions, what do you when you go back? And I can guess the answer. When they go back, they're the guy who goes to Texas all the time. Just like you work on a construction site, everyone's a carpenter, but you always got one guy who went to college, and he's the college guy. Well, he might move on in life and go do something else. Everyone around him is a college guy, and then he becomes the carpenter. Just a crazy story we tell. And I can't believe those kind of narratives anymore, because I sort of reached a point in life where I had, went through a lot of changes, and I can no longer create a narrative that makes my whole life make sense. When I was in my 20s, it felt like there was a plot to this thing. And I'm moving on, and yeah, I was the kid in 4th grade who, whatever, And here I am, 25, and I'm the guy who's doing this for a living. Or, you know, I married this kind of person because when I was 3, it all had a way of making sense to me. And at some point that narrative through line just broke. And I don't think I can honestly tell you why I did things in the past. I can create a narrative for it, I can make something up, but I don't think it has any validity. The same way I could explain your actions is the way I would explain mine. I absolutely don't feel guilty about things I did 20 years ago, even if maybe I should. But it wasn't me. It was a different person. I wouldn't do those things now, and I don't know why I did them then. And I need to... It sounds like I'm confessing to some horrible past. That isn't the case. But I don't feel guilty or excited. A lot of the memories are very distant. And I think we all reach an age where things just feel that way. My wife's not there yet. My wife will still say, "Why did you say this?" And she's talking about something that happened in the 90s. It wasn't me. That was some kid you were dating. Completely different viewpoint, but I think we'll all reach that same point eventually. That thread is just going to stretch and stretch until it breaks. Tagar, I enjoyed your video. Look forward to your channel. Thanks a lot, man.